What the heck is going on here? Hi everyone and welcome to the monthly update for February. Actually, the update where I talk about January. I gotta admit, working on a Glowing Stripes project last month turned out to be more frustrating than I expected it to be. More specifically because of software and debugging, which is a bit annoying on ESP32s. Let me tell you in more detail. So in comparison, let's say we want to write something in Python, since that's a language I actually used to use before C++. You enter some code in the terminal, for example, execute it, and there's an error. Python actually tells you in what line the error occurs, and the error message is at least good enough understandable that you might just figure it out by yourself, or you can easily search online or ask friends. However, working on a microcontroller like an ESP32 means that debugging works a bit different. You actually have to get extra hardware, to which I will come back in a minute. If you want to do some serious debugging, besides that, you basically just have to use console outputs and try to figure out by removing parts of your code to figure out what is working and what isn't. And that took time, quite a bit of time. So you might wonder now, what the heck was I even debugging in the first place? Well, both the LED animations, which I had to completely redo in C++ and still have to partially, but also primarily how microcontrollers are actually connecting with each other. So basically how the different LED strips that are connected to the same network connect with each other and exchange if there's a new LED strip mode. And stuff like this. And there are a few ways how to do it. So I experimented with multiple approaches for connecting the LED strips with each other. The first one being just regular HTTP GET and POST requests. And the second one, since I still had issues with the GET and POST requests and some things didn't work, the second approach was using a mesh network, using a library called Painless Mesh. After having some good first results for sending simple messages between the ESP32s, I thought, maybe I can also use it for submitting all of the RGB values, like 30 or 60 times a second, which was too much. And also because of other reasons, I realized that maybe just having a regular simple GET and POST request is a much better option for actually communicating between the microcontrollers. However, that was not the only challenge that I had when it comes to software. The other challenge started with that a friend recommended me, hey, don't use JSON. It's inefficient and with microcontrollers every byte counts. So instead he recommended to use Protobuffer. More specifically the implementation of Protobuffer for microcontrollers called Nano PB. So basically Protobuffers is this format for exchanging information, kind of like JSON, but unlike JSON you basically define a structure first, you define a class with all kinds of fields, and then you can compile it into all kinds of languages from Python to JavaScript to C++ and so on. But the documentation of Nano PB, which I used for the microcontroller, was not very beginner friendly, and it took me quite a long time to actually get the basics done there, and even then there have been some essential things that I couldn't actually get done. I couldn't figure out how things work, and I just gave up on it and thought, okay, it's not worth the time, let's just go back to JSON. It's efficient enough anyway, especially if you just simplify the JSON structure and simplify the names, shorten them, so instead of having a long field name, you just call them simple numbers. That's enough. That's the best choice. But I also did make progress after all. The animations that I did recreate in C++ for the ESP32 are customizable using a JSON file, which later on will be editable by using the front end from your web browser. And also I did make progress when it comes to connecting the LED strips with each other and with the front end. And also I learned why I probably won't use Protobuffer anytime soon for microcontroller projects. It's just not very beginner friendly. And I mentioned earlier the ESP32 debugger hardware that can be used. Actually got it. It took a while to ship because it wasn't available in Europe, like anywhere. But hey, it arrives like maybe 15 euros or so, and it allows you to debug an ESP32 using the VS Code debugger, which then basically results in the same kind of, in this line there's this error, but also including the possibility to see all the variable contents and so on directly in your IDE. So it does make debugging easier. And yeah, so I shouldn't run into the same issues like I had over the last month in the future, I hope. Also, I did used to have these issues with these randomly blinking LEDs just because the microcontroller was getting some server requests. I got the level shifter now that should fix that. So far it looks good, but I still have to do more testing and practice to see if it's like in really all use cases completely stopping this randomly blinking LEDs issue. And then coming to a slightly different topic, away from software, I just felt like I need more LEDs in my room. And so I placed them in a lot of places. My bed, my desks, yeah, just lighting up the room with a bunch of nice LEDs, including LEDs literally in front of my windows. And it looks nice so far. And with the software that I work on at the moment, it's gonna look even nicer once it's much easier to customize the LED animations using the web browser. So yeah, that was January 2021. Now let's talk about the next month, February. So yeah, I can summarize it pretty short. My absolute main priority is software. Like actually finally getting the software of the Glowing Stripes project ready enough to work properly. And to release it. And once I've done that, then I can also take a look again into finishing up the case of the microcontroller and the microphone and everything. And also then later on look into making it react to music. But first I really just have to focus on making the basics work reliably. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. So that means adding all remaining animations, rebuilding them in C++, making them customizable, and especially make the web server work and allow the LED strips to connect with each other reliably. So yeah, that's the monthly update for this time, and hope you stay safe, stay positive, and see you next month. Bye!